And it's Nick Evans who starts this one, and the Quins management team and coaching team, Conor O'Shea and Tony Diprose, were telling me that Racing are going to be up against Prestissimo today, a Prestissimo tempo, which I am assured is slightly quicker than Allegretto.
We lost at Scarlets at home, which was a poor game. We went to Claremont and did ourselves proud. In a game again, we should have done a bit better, but then we were like, right, this is the one we actually have to put everything together, and we did.
Maybe just at the time we had a bit of a big game mentality. We could go to those big places, and everyone who looked around the change room, all the players just they thrived. They had their best games in those matches, in those environments. And you saw the international guys come alive. You saw Minty, Snapper. Thinking back at some of those European games, the level that he was playing at for a number of years was incredible, and making everyone else around him look good. So you just kind of follow him around and try and pick up the scraps.
It was a 23, but then there was a coaching staff, physios, medics, and all the people as well, like Dennis, the kit man, like massively underestimated guys like that. Just so you went into your changing room and you knew exactly what was happening. Mike Brown always used to demand the brand new pair of socks because that's what he wanted. Like, and that's fair enough. I always used to complain and say, look, when do I get a brand new pair of socks? They're like, well, once you play many games Mike Brown, you can do that. But it's just silly things like that you understand that it is a them versus us attitude, and it's going to take a collective effort of 35, 36 people, plus obviously the supporters. Because the other thing was, you'd always hear the Quins supporters.
Having those faces that you're seeing every day, having those things in the change room that you're just used to having, it kind of takes away the grand nature of what you're about to go out and face. And obviously when you're on the pitch, you're there with 15 other guys or 23 guys, and it's that's when the pressure really comes on. But as much as you can do before and after before mainly to elude that or alleviate that situation is fantastic.
And it was my first start away in France, and Tofty started reading off all the big games that the Quins won away in France, like Toulouse, Stade, Biarritz, banging them out. Like, it wasn't Argent because we did that afterwards, but it kept going on. I was like, Jesus, like proper historical games that we've won there.
Yeah. So
I was like, right, I need to be a part of this today. I know pretty much from a warm-up and the way the atmosphere is, if it's going to be a good day at the office or not. And sometimes it goes against it, but 90% of the time, you get out there, everyone's feeling fresh, everyone's light on their toes. There's a little bit of an edge in the warm-up. The chat is not manufactured, it's real. And it was a bit of a fear as well. I mean, I don't want to bang on about it, but as in the scrum was massive for them, as it is any French team. So the fear in our fact that we were probably a bit lighter and stuff in there, and we actually went really well in the scrum that day. I think the actual fear in that as well was a good driving, motivation for us. George Robson basically said, right, you can have any numbers of the line out as long as it's up the front. Yeah. And they were like, joking. He was like, no. So we basically ran 17 line-outs. We got 16 out of 17 maybe. And maybe 3 were in the middle and 14 were at the front. And I think 16 out of 17 went to George Robson. So to be fair to him, he looked after me that day. He just didn't do the whole perception of my line-out any good. Because everyone was like, well, Dave Ward can't run 7 metres. But we won the game. We got a bonus point. And then Dicko scored the driving line-out try, which should have been mine.
I do remember that. I remember Snapper scoring, which was a good try. I remember being quite close to Minty when he scored, and then obviously Charlie's try. I remember thinking it was quite funny when Charlie got it, because obviously he was quite young at the time. No one really knew who he was, and when he got it, I just knew he was gone. Yeah. And you got sort of 3 or 4 guys chasing him, and I thought, I don't think I bothered chasing. I just let it go.
We'd seen that in training 100 times. Yeah. And I think because I was the first one to catch up to him to celebrate, I was running in for the celebration. I knew he'd scored as soon as he went past the first guy.
What? Mate, I used to run in, not for the celebration, because you knew on a Monday morning, if you weren't one of the guys that was first there, you were going to get rollocked. So I just put my head down, charge for the try guy, act. I knew I was getting nowhere near it, but I knew on the video on Monday I'd be sweet.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact they judged your work rate for how hard you celebrated and ran in, more than the fact you hit 19 rucks before that. But anyway, so...
Yeah. I remember scoring as well. I think that's the one try I can remember. I think I scored it. It was disallowed. I think the fourth division went on for 5 minutes or something, and it just couldn't sort of be decided. And then it wasn't given. And I think, I was pretty gutted about that one because I never scored anyway. So, like, it would have been nice to score on that ground. But
Whoa. Leicester away. Didn't you score Leicester away, like, try of the century?
I'd love to say that was me, but...
Yeah, it was. Top corner, Welford Road. We won the game.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Why not?
Joe Trayford maybe got 17 carries. Anyway, look, I can't remember it that well.
I don't have I don't have an elephant's brain like you, but I used to make those French games for me. I just remember because I was obviously in a position in my first year I came in and George was the starter and like playing really well, and it just so happened for the first few years where he was pretty much injured for most of those European games. So I think my first 3 years, maybe even 4 years, I played pretty much every European game. And going out to France, just everything about it. People always ask me my favourite Quins game. I always say the Quins Toulouse game, which I've seen recently. A lot of guys have mentioned that game, even more so than the Premiership final. And I think when you go there, such a grand nature, it's such a spectacle. Like I remember coming through the streets, and you've got people going bananas in the streets. You've got bands playing everywhere. And even when I was fortunate enough to play out in France, it was that every week. Yeah. And those years with Quins, I don't know if it was a bit of probably coming from the Championship and not really knowing too much about it, or even just a bit of blind faith or small bit of arrogance. I don't know, but I always thought we would win. I think my first year in the Heineken Cup, especially in the group stages, we would always win. It was never a question that we wouldn't win. So although it was a pretty nerve-wracking experience to go there and play in front of this huge crowd against these big money teams, I did genuinely think we would win most of the time.
I watch old games all the time, but only the ones I played well in. I mean, the YouTube Quins versus Cardiff Challenge Cup, I reckon it's got about 730 views. I reckon about 712 of mine. The rest is probably my dad, but exactly. There's still some games to this day I've never watched back because I know I played badly and I can't bring myself to it. So I never watched the European Challenge game against Northampton away. I had a terrible game. I made loads of lineouts, missed loads of lineouts, made one turnover, and it bounced up to Confotuli, who under the post. I was like, that's it. I'm never watching that game ever again. Never seen it to this day. But the rest, some of the better games I do watch. To the annoyance of Abby as well. But anyways, she has to. The amount of time she's watched Big Game 10, you know what I mean? But it's just on in the background. I watched the Wasps one the other day. I actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I tried to show my son the Toulouse one. I mean, he's nearly 7 now, so he was quite excited, but he couldn't quite grasp why I was on the TV and not here. So I might try and show him again because it's obviously nice to share those memories and to share those memories with your kids. But we'll see. Let's get the first 10 and then jump on about 15 minutes in. Dave, it's great to chat, buddy.
Pirates honour, baby.
Mate, for sure. I'll see you soon.
Never forget.
All right, mate. Chat soon. Bye-bye.